What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, we're here to talk about Crackdown 1, a franchise I've actually never played before, so I thought this would kind of be cool. You know, I started really Gears of War for the first time, kind of unofficially, I think last year, and I thought, you know what, there's another Xbox franchise that's pretty darn well known. You know what I mean? You got Halo, you got Gears, you got a few others, and you got Crackdown. And like I said, never played it. I remember the controversy that was Crackdown 3, and I'm pretty excited to actually go through the entire series. We'll do the other two eventually on this channel, but I thought, you know what? You gotta start where it all began, so you gotta start at the first Crackdown game. Now, I knew a little bit about it. I looked it up like on Wikipedia and Google in general, you know, before I fired the thing up. And I actually have it physically. I'm going to show you the full box, which is actually very, very cool. So I knew a little bit of what to expect and kind of what people said back in 2007 on this game. But may I just say, before we get too far, Alex, what's your overall opinion? This game actually kind of rocks, and I can see why it got a franchise. I could see why, you know, if you butcher the third game, why people would kind of be upset, because this franchise, or at least the first game, is actually really cool. It looks really cool. It feels really good. It's a simple approach to a game. It's a simple game by actually quite a few accounts, but I enjoyed my time. I didn't beat the entire thing, but I sunk a good night's worth, like 4 or 5 hours. I just sunk and I just played the game as much as I could, and I really enjoyed my time with it. So let's talk a little bit about the history with this game. Let's show you what it looks like, and let's talk about my opinion of it. So this game released on February 20th, 2007. And I think one of the big first things that people maybe think about, and actually I have it in my box, is the Halo 3 multiplayer trial. Now, I highly doubt I think the code has probably already been redeemed by now, but that was a really big talking point. And if you look at kind of the development of this game, it was never really thought to do all that well. Now, it has been said that they actually went into the game thinking or assuming that it could spin off, like make an actual franchise because of it, but the game never really tested all that great. In fact, I think back in maybe 2006, 2005, the game was actually in like the bottom 30% of like positivity. When people were trying out this game, just the different surveys and different ways to convey info, the game was in the bottom 30% of like how good it was. I think it was in the bottom 50% or bottom half in terms of interest. So the game, you know, especially leading into this game, it was never thought that it was going to be some like massive titan. And I honestly, I guess, would say the game probably never became a titan. Like when you think of Xbox and you think of the mid 2000s and franchises that have survived and continued on, you think of mainly two in terms of Halo and Gears. You even have, say, Fable. I'd say Fable is actually a pretty good one. Crackdown, I wouldn't say really caught on in the same way as those other games. Okay, I think that's fair. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily worse than those games. It just didn't really catch on. So, you know, it comes out and actually does surprisingly well. People seemingly like it. If you look at like review scores and stuff, it seemed like it was a big surprise. Back in 2007, I didn't have a PlayStation. I think I had a Wii at the time, so no PlayStation, no Xbox. So let's take a look at the cover. And firstly, may I just say, it looks really good. Now, of course, because of the stupid green screen behind me, you're not going to be able to see the green edges. But front looks good. Back looks good. I picked this up. I think I probably did a video, actually, of the time that I picked this up. In terms of the manual, this is still the era where we actually, like, got some of it. It's got the colors. It's got, actually, like really nice, and we'll talk about the visuals of this game, but the game overall looks very, very good, pictures or video, and I'm a sucker for when games do this. I think Prototype did this, and I don't know if I have it with me or if it's at like my parents' house, but I love it when they come with maps. And so let me just show you a good old map. There you go. And on the back, it gives you like some details, like you got some pictures, some illustrations. Pretty darn cool. But I mean, yeah, anytime you show me a map, I'm very much thrilled with it. And then, of course, again, the big seller, and from the behind-the-scenes stuff, they talk about that they believe that this actually worked, and it did really, really well, and it helped Crackdown do better. But there you go. Congratulations. By purchasing this specifically marked version of Crackdown, you've also secured an invitation to be among the first to play the highly anticipated Halo 3 beta. Oh my god, selling like hotcakes. And I think in some of the reviews it even talked about how, yes, we know you'll be playing Halo 3 like through this, but you might actually want to give the game itself the time of day because it kind of does deserve it. Oh, and then of course I forgot to mention, of course you got the disc surrounded by all this white, which is really green, but very nice. I mean, I honestly think it looks beautiful. It's a nice case. I'm glad I found it physically. And so let's talk about the game itself. Like I said, just overall really, really fun. Let's start with the art style. And I didn't look up anything in terms of how well does Xbox, like Series X, how well does it like boost it or anything like that. I did have a little bit of trouble actually firing up. I was kind of afraid that all of a sudden it was going to pull something where like this game wasn't, because I think I looked it up. Like, this game is backwards compatible. You can put the disc in your Series X and you can play it. So I knew that. I put it in, and I think it was not working originally. Something went wrong, and I was like, oh my dear God, like, am I really not going to be able to play it? And then I think I restarted my Xbox, and then it worked. So I don't know what happened there. But the first thing that you'll notice is that the game just looks beautiful. And I'm a sucker for cel-shaded environments, cel-shaded characters. I also have a very hard time saying the word cel-shaded. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well as it should. But like I said, I don't know if the Series X does anything in terms of boosting frame rate or whatever for this game in particular, but the game looks outrageously good, and I couldn't help but think as I was playing through it, well, number one, the world just looks really, really good, but the cars and when you're moving around, and look, like when you're moving around and when you're like shooting the enemies and stuff, are you going to convince me that it came out, say, this year? No, but just the general art style, and we've talked about cel shading stuff in the past, like it ages much slower than pretty much, at least in my my money's worth, maybe like some of the pixel art kind of stuff. There's a couple genres of art that don't age nearly as fast and don't age as badly as other styles, and I just couldn't help but think as I was going through this world, man, like it pops off, like the colors. It's a very colorful and vibrant world, and it just looks really, really good. So I'm very impressed. Again, like I've seen stuff, I've heard a little stuff, but I haven't seen that much. So going into this game really was generally new. Like Crackdown 3, I knew of like the destruction physics and stuff, and people saying that like Crackdown 1 could have actually done it better, and like that was kind of the extent. So like going into this game, I was not ready for how good it looked. And okay, well, what else is there? Can you just look at it? No, you can actually do other stuff. The game is also just fun. Now, there's kind of two, maybe three elements to the fun of this game. The first is the driving and some of like the racing. I don't know if you want to call them side missions, but you'll find kind of the markers throughout the area that you can do like the racing kind of missions. I mean, I felt it was responsive. I felt it was, again, keyword fun. Maybe just pause here or stop here, Alex, myself. Just reiterate how much fun this game is. No, honestly, look, we sometimes forget, and I don't think gaming has to just be pure fun, but fun is something that oftentimes I think we forget in the gaming industry. Sometimes we focus so much on the visuals. Now, I try not to. I know I just spent so much time talking about the cel-shadedness, but that's more of like the preservation kind of take. Some people will focus on the visuals. Some people will focus on the characters or like the heavy story. Sometimes it's a complex story or whatever. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, a few weeks ago, we talked about Hellblade, which is actually entirely propped up on the very different sounds that are going on, the visuals, the story, the complexity of the story, and the characters. So sometimes you can have games like that, but I also think, again, it's important to remember that gaming ultimately probably does stem from at least having fun. If you're not having fun with a game, I think it's going to actually be quite hard for it to catch on. Now, fun for one person is not necessarily fun for another, but this is kind of a generic, sandboxy, fun type game. Like, that's what it feels like. There's several islands, as you saw from the map, in my physical copy. There's a couple islands around. You go around, you find gang kind of like outposts and leaders. You kill them, you unlock another one, you kill that, you take down organizations, and that's it. I did, again, like I played about 4 or 5 hours. I think the overall, like how long to beat, I actually got close, I guess I should say. How long to beat, the game is only like 7, 8, 9 hours to do most of it, maybe not to do all of it, but I saw actually a lot of reviews back in 2007 saying, hey, you could beat this thing in like a weekend. It's a lot of fun, and it's a superhero type game that you maybe don't really even expect, but you can beat it very, very quickly. That's, again, maybe generic is not the right word, but like when I think about the late 2000s, I think of some games that are like this. Like they're fun, they're not too long. It's maybe part of the reason why I'll always have so much love for the Infamouses of the world, or prototypes even of the world. There's stuff to do. You can extend it to 10, 15, 20 hours, but you're not looking at like a 50-hour thing. You're not staying in these cities for that long. You get in, you have a ton of fun, and you get out. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. I think we've lost a lot of that spirit as time has gone on. It's been replaced with other things of spirit, but we've lost part of this. So honestly, I really appreciate it. In terms of like a literal blast from the past, the channel's back to the past, but in terms of that, this game really encapsulates like all of it. You know what I mean? You get in, you have a blast, you sense like that it's not that deep, like it's a little kind of a shallow type experience. You're not going to be in there forever, and you say, you know what, I'm just going to ride it out, have some fun, and leave. And I think that's kind of fun. I think that's kind of cool, and we don't get too many of those. And actually, audiences don't really allow developers to give, like, you know what I mean, a sandbox, an open world game that you could probably finish in 8 hours. Yes, it's a lot of fun, but you could finish in 8 hours. Try to pitch that right now. Try to pitch that to a studio. Try to pitch that to the Twitter community, or even YouTube. I've seen plenty of comments that talk about that they won't play games, under 20, 30, 40 hours. That's a real thing. That's absolutely a real thing. So I feel for games like this, because I don't think a game like Crackdown 1, at least Crackdown 1, I don't actually think it would work in 2024. I think it holds up in 2024, but I don't actually think if you made one in 2020, I don't think that would actually work, especially a game just like this. So, mentioned the racing. I really like, I like the responsiveness of the vehicles. Like, I'm actually low-key impressed of how it feels. And then there's just the movement. Now, I saw reviews of like the superhero type jumps, so I did think about that, and I knew that going in. Let me tell you, movement in this game, again, rocks. Especially, there are, I think, there like 500 orbs in this goddamn game. It actually reminds me of Prototype a lot in that regard, where just like every 5 feet you're seeing something flashing, and it's gonna like enhance something, or build yourself up. So it does have that vibe going. And Prototype was actually 2 years later in 2009. But regardless, no. Once you get, I don't know if it's your agility. I'm having trouble remembering. I played it a few weeks ago. Once you level up your jump, basically, and you can actually jump like a fair distance, the game always feels good, right? Like the cars feel good, and I liked doing the races, but then once you get the jump going, you might not even use the vehicles because the jumping is actually just fun. And honestly, I mentioned like the shooting, you're not gonna like wow anybody with it. It is a responsive enough game. Like, it's a little bit arcadey by nature, but it's fun to just go around and blast people. And I think maybe they get a little, there's a little too much. Sometimes, like, there is an ungodly amount of enemies. But, at the same time, it's kind of fun. I guess it's a balancing act, because there's always enemies to fire at and to fire at you, which, in terms of the responsiveness and the constant moving, like the feeling of constantly moving, right? It feels good, but at the same time, there's, like, so much going on that maybe becomes a little bit overwhelming. But that's pretty much the game. And I guess that is why there is a point of like, okay, well, you're kind of done, right? You go around, you collect a bunch of stuff, you find these outposts. Like, I feel like you can handle the outposts in different ways. Did I handle the outposts? Not really. I kind of handled it the same. Well, the first couple outposts, I kind of took it like methodically. Like, I tried to approach it from one direction, take out all the enemies, and then kind of move through it. As I kept playing and finding more and more and more, I actually, as my jumping got like bigger, I would actually just try to jump over because there could be, like, no joke, 100 enemies in like a compound. So I would jump over them all, find the boss, because you really only need to kill them, or gang leader, whatever you want to call it, kill them and then leave. And that's basically it. Like, you're just finding them all. There is a little profile on each of them, and once you kill them, they basically say like how the system is disrupted by taking out a specific person. I like that. I mean, I think there's a little bit of depth there. There's a little bit of depth to like the overall, like the agency, so like the overall story of Crackdown. There's a little bit there, and I've read about the ending, so I kind of know how it ends and whatnot. But again, is it like the most deep in that regard? No, it's a little shallow. But one other thing I actually did not take advantage of, which I tend to do with a lot of these games, and I feel bad about it. This game actually has drop-in, drop-out co-op, which I do think would only make it better. I don't think it would move it up like an entire stratosphere, but it's definitely not going to make it worse. I would imagine, and I can't say it because I didn't play with anybody, like, for sure, but I would imagine the game feels even better playing it with a friend, again, going around and just kind of causing mayhem, right? Whether it's driving, I believe what I read at least is that you can go anywhere. So, like, one person could be on one part of the map, the other person could be on the other, and, like, that would be okay. And that's kind of it. And again, that goes back to the point of not really overstaying your welcome. I think I posted on Twitter when I started playing this game, and I got a comment saying, like, this is their favorite game of all time. That's cool. I mean, I believe this game was a lot of fun back in 2007, and I honestly am a bit surprised how much fun the game is now. I think in a lot of ways it still holds up because I think general, like I said, like I keep going back to the word fun. I think the kind of general but not too deep, it's a little shallow type fun that comes in Crackdown 1, you don't really ever lose that. And also, again, like as we've talked about, I'm not too big into visuals. Like, yeah, we talk about them in every video, but it doesn't make or break the game. It can help or it could hurt, but it doesn't make or break it. The cell shadedness of this game just looks really, so you can almost fool people into believing that it came out a little bit more recent. It still feels, again, like the responsiveness, whether it's driving or whether it's shooting, it feels good. I think it's just maybe a little bit of like the outdated practices of it's not very deep in terms of the story. It's not very deep in terms of saving the compounds or, other things. It's a very, like, it came out in 2007. It feels, in terms of the mechanics, it feels like a 2007 game. But you know what? I really respect it, and I'm really glad. Like, I don't remember when I got this game, but I remember thinking, like, yes, one day I want to play Crackdown. I found this at a store, and I said, okay, I just got to get the game and try it out for myself. And I'm glad I did because I really liked it. So if you guys like this video, of course, leave it a like. And I don't have Crackdown 2 or 3 physically. I'm going to fix that problem eventually, and by the time I play Crackdown 2, I will have it physically, I promise you. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.